Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the 150th episode of Conversations. Today, I'm thrilled to host a powerhouse mother daughter duo who are truly changing the landscape of early childhood education, Dr. Claudia Sasse and Caroline Sasse. Dr. Claudia Sass is an assistant professor at Ambrose University in Calgary with a career that spanned from a teacher and principal in Brazil to a language specialist and course designer. She brings a wealth of experience and expertise in educational leadership. Fluent in English, Portuguese, and Spanish, she is deeply passionate about cultural diversity and supporting pre-service teachers to become exceptional educators. Joining her is her daughter, Caroline Sass, who recently completed a Master of Counseling. She is focused on student success and shining a vital light on the importance of early learning sector. Together, they authored the compelling research we will be discussing today from Hola to AHA, navigating dual language teaching with passion and purpose. Welcome, Claudia and Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be again in your show.
Let's begin discussing your personal journey into education. Claudia, across your diverse roles, from a teacher to university professor now, what is the one piece of wisdom you gained early on that you passionately share with your students?
Okay, yeah. That's it seems like an easy question, but it's not so easy. So one of the things that I always tell my students, don't be a perfectionist because sometimes I tend to be a perfectionist as well. So, we have those students, oh, I want an A plus, I want an A plus. So that is one of the
Mm,
things that I learned early in my career.
mm,
It's all about being curious and
mm,
learning the content, connecting with your colleagues. So don't worry about the grades. And I have to share here now that I'm advocate for ungrading in post-secondary. So I tell my students, don't worry about your grades. So ask questions, be
mm,
curious, be
mm,
willing to try again. I
mm,
give them chances to redo assignments if they're not
mm,
happy with
mm,
the outcomes or feedback. So when they have that mindset, I think
mm,
it builds them a lot of
mm,
confidence and they
mm,
become better educators, better
mm,
teachers in the future.
mm,
So
mm,
that's for me,
mm.
it's one of the things that I learned early on in my career.
Wonderful advice. Caroline, what is the core idea that connects your journey from an early childhood educator to pursuing a Master of Counseling?
hmm Children would be the answer to that. The short answer would be children. So, as my mom knows, I've been very passionate about the field of psychology since I was probably 14,
Mhm,
and I started working in an early childhood education setting, and it just really ignited a passion towards children. And then I thought, I've always wanted to be a psychologist, and
mm,
now I know I want to be a child psychologist. So I just kept pursuing that route, which is what led me to my Master of Counseling. And I was able to do a lot of research projects in the early learning field. So I've been balancing both my interests in both worlds.
wonderful. Let's discuss your research. Caroline, for our audience, can you briefly explain what is flight framework before we get into discuss your research?
Yeah. So Flight Framework is Alberta's early learning and childcare framework, and
Mm,
it essentially provides educators with a shared language, values, and principles to guide the co-construction of curriculum with children. There's a big emphasis on the language that's used. I think that's something that's very embedded throughout the Flight Framework curriculum to really ensure that the educators can name what they're doing in their practice, giving a voice to what they're already doing.
great. And as a research assistant, what was the main rationale for piloting the dual language flight course?
hmm So we partnered within McEwen University, we partnered with our Flight Advisory Council. And so
Mm,
this is a group of early childhood educators and also early childhood professionals in the field. And we would just consult with them to see what direction do we want the framework to go. And one of those conversations, they talked about a dual language course. So we
mm,
already had the full French translation. And one of the things we noticed was that many of the learners in our field, they spoke more than one language. English was
mm,
often not their first language.
mm,
And so to meet that demand, And we had a conversation. We actually went back and asked learners that had completed the course, what's your primary first language that you speak at home? And Spanish was among the top five. And so we brought that back to the research team from the Flight Advisory Council, had a discussion. Who do we know already that we work with that speaks Spanish? And there was two obvious people that stood out to us, one obviously being Dr. Sass and the other being Libby, who was facilitating course. Both of them were facilitating and instructing a course in English. And so when we presented the idea, hey, how does this sound to you to do a dual language course? They were so supportive, and that's how the idea blossomed.
Wonderful. Carolyn, as the first point of contact, what feedback did you hear from Spanish-speaking educators that showed relief from the dual language opportunity to learn from the flight framework?
hmm So I was responsible for that onboarding everybody into the course. And so one of the things I would notice right away was just this excitement that, wow, this is being offered in Spanish as well as in English. This is so interesting. There was a few student learners that we had that actually started the course in English, found out about the Spanish offering, and then came to me and asked, is this possible to switch? And we made that possible for them too. So it was just really excited to see how quickly the word spread within the sector.
Great. Claudia, the dual language class was so engaging, you had to create a queue. Can you describe the feeling in that virtual classroom?
Sure. Yeah. And you probably have taught online classes, right?
Yeah.
The students sometimes they don't open, or I would say
Yeah.
most of the time, they don't open their cameras, they don't open their mics, they don't connect, they don't say anything unless like you force them to do that, or they will just write things in the chat box. And for this group, it was amazing because I had to tell them, okay, people one at a time, because they all have their hands up and they are talking over each other. Of course, because it was their first language, right? So they were so excited. And also the culture, because someone will share one thing, oh, this is happening in my childcare, and oh, it's happening in my childcare too. So they'll always be talking over each other. And I had to say, okay, you have to put your hand up.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna call your name. When you're done talking, then I'm gonna ask the other person. And I never had to do that. And I'm teaching online, like since before COVID, I think 2015, I started teaching online. I never had this problem in my classes. So
Good
I
problem.
actually, that was a good problem. I just loved it. Yeah.
So, Claudia, what was it about the language shift that created such a vibrant atmosphere in your virtual classroom?
I think it was like the language and the culture, both of them, like together, made them to feel comfortable, right? Because, like I mentioned, it was not just like speaking in your language, but sharing examples that they had happening with the students. They said, yes, I remember I had that in my childhood in Mexico. I had that happening when I was a little child in Brazil. So we all connected with the same things, and the way that we did things back in our country. Sometimes the parents would expect them to do the same thing with their kids within the childcare settings. So those are the things as well, not just the language, but the culture that was shared behind being able to speak in your first language.
Great. Let's dive into your research and findings. The paper is titled From Hola to Aha. I love your title, by the way. Can you each share a specific aha moment from the course that demonstrated the power of learning a complex topic in a home language?
My aha came more so behind the scenes as I was working on the research side, so more the data. So for me, what the aha moment was to see what we get at the end of every course is we get these feedback that we ask every single learner, how was your experience of the course? And one of the things we noticed was the feedback they gave us was written in Spanish, and when you would read what they actually gave, or what they actually wrote, they were already using the flight terminology to describe themselves. So you can see that now they've taken the flight framework, the concepts, and they're identifying with it. And I think that came down to that language piece.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was when the students they said, "Oh, now I can finally like understand this concept because it is in Spanish." Because
Mm,
before, some of them had taken the course in English or had read about the course, and they could not understand the concept. But then, when the concept was explained in
mm,
their first language in
mm.
Spanish, they said, "Yeah." So for me, that was an aha moment, and that was. Uh, when we thought about maybe we should name our article from yeah from aha to Ola because yes they have those aha moments with us, so I think that was a big moment for me.
Great. Claudia, the pedagogical strategy of translanguaging was key to your course. How
Mhm.
did you intentionally create a space for learners to fluidly navigate between Spanish and English?
Mhm. Um, for us, it is interesting because, like Caroline mentioned in the beginning, the flight framework has lots of
Mm,
like concepts and
mm,
words that we
mm,
use in a day-to-day basis
mm,
when we're working with children. One of the concepts, like I believe the main concept, is the image of the child. So the
mm,
image that educators have of the child. So they all use that in English, and they'll say, "Oh, the image of the child," and then they'll describe that concept in Spanish.
mm,
So for me, that was an amazing thing. So that was the trans language. Not we did not did just a translation of image of the child in Spanish. They knew the concept. They used the words in English, but then all the other things and examples will be done in Spanish. And sometimes they'll you use words from English, and I'll tell them, "Oh, but that's English." And all that's okay. I don't remember that word in Spanish right now, right? So it was that's the beauty when you
mm,
speak both languages
mm,
because you can just
mm.
fill in the blanks with the other
Yeah,
language, and
yeah.
that is the beauty of translanguage. It's not just like
Mm,
doing
mm,
a translation word by
mm,
word. It's just like communicating with both languages at the
mm.
same time,
Yeah.
being able to explain concepts, give
Mm,
examples.
mm,
It was an amazing experience.
mm. It's great. Caroline, the flight framework has complex terms like the educators as a co-learner, co-researcher, and co-imaginer. How does learning these concepts in a first language change the depth of an educator's understanding and application?
I think it ties back to what Dr. Sass was trying to get at there with what she was saying was we as the flight team behind the scenes were very intentional about how do we ask Dr. Sass and Libby to come in and translate the concept, not
Mm,
the literal translation. So this was something that with Sandra, who also worked on the article with us, it was a big portion of what she did with the French course. She had
mm,
to go through and really make sure that what we were translating into French was getting that concept across. It wasn't a literal translation, and that meant that some things translated weren't the exact word, but it
mm,
captured what we were trying to resonate. And so that was the
mm,
same process we had to go through with the Spanish. We had to consult with Dr. Sass and Libby to make
mm,
sure, is this what we're translating?
mm,
Is this one here the
mm,
exact translation, or is this just the translation of the concept? That was
mm,
very important for us to make sure that that was captured in that
mm.
process.
Um, to you both, your research highlights that shared language and culture foster a strong sense of belonging. How does
Mhm.
that feeling of validation translate into a better, more confident teaching practices?
Mhm. For me was when the students noticed that their culture and their language was not a barrier, was
Mm,
actually something that helped them into their day to day.
mm,
We had quite a few educators taking the course that were working in a Spanish bilingual childcare center.
mm,
So they were learning like Thursday night some concepts with me and applying them the very next day in their first language. So that
mm,
was like they could feel it, and they said
mm,
this is a real feeling of belonging because we are able to do this. And then
mm,
the students as well that were working in an English childcare center, they were able to explain and feel more comfortable because they already discussed all of those concepts the night before in their first language, so they felt more comfortable in doing that in English as well the next day when working with the children and when collaborating with their other educators that were not taking the course and they were not necessarily a Spanish speaker or English was also not their first language. So
mm,
there was like a lot of collaboration going behind the
mm.
scenes that
Yeah.
It was very hard to
Mm.
try to capture everything you put in that article. I think we could write another article only
We
on
should.
belonging and to be able to capture everything that happened within that course.
Yeah,
Mhm.
great. And you should. Uh, let's look at the practical implication of your research. If post-secondary institutions adopt this dual language model more broadly, what practical advice would you give them?
I'd give consultation with those like with that
Mm,
community
mm,
that you're trying to
mm,
translate the language to. Because one of the
mm,
things that Dr. Sass was saying that was really important, it's not just that language piece, but it's the
uh-huh,
cultural piece. And it's something that
mm,
if Sandra was also
mm,
here, she can attest to as
mm,
well.
mm,
She's the instructor in the French course, and she
mm,
said the amount she has people from all over the world who speak French. And the thing
mm,
that unites them obviously is the language,
yeah.
but it's also the cultural
Mm,
pieces and
mm,
all the things that they share. Oh, we do this here, we do that here.
yeah.
So when you're doing this sort of work, it's
Mm,
important to also consider that cultural aspect of
mm,
those people who speak that shared language.
yeah.
Mhm. And for me, I would say
Yeah.
that for institution, start small.
Mm,
Maybe like offer a dual language
mm,
seminar, like a seminar
mm,
or a workshop or
mm,
something small. Create a space where they can talk in both language.
mm,
If you can offer a course like
mm,
McEwen did in a dual language, that would be
mm,
perfect. But don't think,
mm,
oh, we have to start a new course and develop a new.
mm.
By the way, I'm a course developer. You can always call me. But
Yeah.
if you're not able to do that, start small. Do a
Mm,
workshop in two languages. Create a
mm,
space where they can
mm, mm.
talking in their second language, and that will be a great first step.
Yeah. It's a great, wonderful initiative and great idea, and definitely worth looking into it.
Mhm.
Uh, as a mother and daughter collaborating on this significant research, what was like to working together?
It was it's funny because I've been talking to a lot of people that I different colleagues in the field, and I've been saying to them, if this is what it's like to work on writing an article,
Yeah.
I will write 100 articles because it was such a fun experience. It was so easy. It wasn't, obviously it was fun to work with my mom, but also the
Mm,
other two that we
mm,
collaborated with Lee and
mm,
Sandra. It was so
mm,
fun to just always
mm,
have, we would get together, we would have
mm,
conversations, we would bring
mm,
insights. It was
mm.
a place of learning for one
Yeah.
another. So it
Yeah.
was just a lot of fun. I would do it again.
Great.
I think that one of the things that most like challenged me was in the beginning when we start our meetings because it was we were talking to each other, and then Caroline will always address me as Dr. Sass and
Mm.
Dr. Sass, and then I believe at one point Lee said, Caroline, we all know that Dr. Sass is your mom, so you can call her mom. And then from that day on, Caroline said, okay, so my mom said that, and I like that idea. So I think that for me, that was the best moment. But the whole thing, the whole experience was amazing. But that one for me was even with our emails, right?
Yeah.
Caroline would write, dear
Always.
Dr. Sass. And they said, no, it's okay. You can call her mom.
Finally, as you look ahead, what's next for you both?
Things coming up in both my personal and professional life. I guess
Okay.
we'll start personal. Next year, I'm
Mhm.
getting married. That's something
Ah,
to look forward to. Very excited for
congratulations.
that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And professionally, so as we started this conversation, I finished my master's of counseling. My goal is to work inside of the
Mm,
psychology field. So
mm,
I've completed my registration or my submission for registration, hoping to hear back. But I also want to continue working in the early learning sector. I'm currently working
mm.
with my mom, also with
Oh,
Dr.
nice.
Sass, at Burman University. We're trying to make an impact in the sector in
Mm,
that institution and trying to just
mm,
make it a bigger program and
mm,
just grow from there. So
mm,
we have lots of work I think to do
mm,
in the sector and
mm.
yeah, so I'm excited.
Oh, wonderful.
And for me, I just started a new research study at Ambrose University with
Mm,
international students. We have a
mm,
small number of international students,
mm.
but for this time, for the first time ever, I'm doing a photo voice research study. So
Ah.
my students will be sharing their perspective of the
Mm,
work that they have done back in their
mm,
country. They
mm,
will compare to
mm,
find similarities and
mm,
differences within the work they are doing
mm,
in Canada, but
mm,
just through pictures. I mean, not just like with pictures and writing a narrative, then using those pictures too, so we can understand their field back in the country and their field that they're working here. If there are too many differences, if they can find some similarities. But this is going to be a topic for our next conversation.
Absolutely. I love to talk about it. Claudia and Caroline, thank you so much for taking the time to share your research with us today. It's clear that dual language teaching has a powerful impact on early childhood education. We wish you both all the best with your future endeavors and collaborations.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
having. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having me as well. Thank
Yeah.
you.